Hello and welcome to the Premier League programme where we bring videos about everything to do with your favourite league to you. Before we get started on the video, I'm sure you're all wondering who this is speaking, and well, it's the editor for Premier League programme or co-host to the channel, so get used to me because I'm here to stay. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. So today's video, if you haven't already looked at the title or the thumbnail or you're just messed up in your brain, we're just tearing each Premier League manager for the 2019-20 season about how well they've done in the league and how well they've done with their team and etc, all of the specifications that we're judging them off of. You get the idea. We got world class, great, good, average, poor, out of the club tiers. So first up we have got Jurgen Klopp, also known as the winner of the Premier League with Liverpool, and I think it's safe to say that he is going up in the world class tier, just because I've been so impressed about what he's done for Liverpool this season, how good of a manager he is, how much he is a mate of the players. He got manager of the season this season, so I think it's fair to say that he's going right up to the top. Right, moving on to Pep Guardiola. Now, Pep Guardiola, he's just Pep Guardiola, right? He's one of the best. But this season, he hasn't really shown me anything special about him. He's done what he's been doing each season, getting top 4 in the Premier League, and just being consistently good. He's got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, unfortunately beaten by Lyon 2-1. So I think I'm going to put him in good, just because we haven't really seen anything special from him, and he's just at a really consistent level. And I feel like what he's done with Manchester City this season has been very good. He's just been consistently good all the time. Right, so next up it's Brendan Rodgers, and I'm quite impressed about what he's done with Leicester City this season, because to get to where he was in the Premier League is very impressive with the side that Leicester City have. They've got a very strong side, I must say, but with the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, I think he's done very good about what he's been given. So I'm going to put him in good. But what would have made me put him in great is if he got top 4. But he just missed out on the last match day, so I think that's quite unfortunate. Right, moving on to OLE-GUNNAR SOLSKJAER. I'm not a massive fan of this manager, especially at the first kind of few weeks of the Premier League. He wasn't really doing anything special. He wasn't really being challenged. Like, he was very average at the start. But after the lockdown, when everybody came back, I was quite impressed with what he did with Manchester United. To get top 4, in fact 3rd position in the Premier League, is very impressive. So for that reason, I'm going to put him at great. Right, so next up is personally one of my favourite managers, Frank Lampard, but I'm pretty sure I'm a bit biased by saying that because I'm a Chelsea fan. Everybody predicted, even I predicted, that we were going to get mid-table, like top half of the table, but not as well as we did, which we got 4th, which is very impressive. So despite what everybody said about Frank Lampard, despite what he had been given with the transfer ban and how difficult his job would have been, I think he really pulled through with what he had, and I'm really excited to see what he has to offer next season with Timo Werner, hopefully Kai Havertz, Pulisic stronger than ever, and Hakim Ziyech. So for that reason, I'm going to give him great up there with OLE-GUNNAR SOLSKJAER, just because what he's been given this season hasn't been the best, but he's pulled through and he's got top 4, which is absolutely very impressive. So next up is NUNO, ESPERITO, SANTO. To get Wolves that high up in the table is actually very impressive. So I'll give him a lot of credit for that. I'm just very impressed because Wolves literally, I think a couple of seasons back, were in the Championship. So I think what he's done with Wolves this season has been very impressive. But especially at the end of the season, he was kind of lacking a bit. Wolves have an incredibly strong side with the likes of Adama Traore, Jimenez, just a very strong team of players. So I wouldn't be surprised where they got in that position, and just because of how well he's done this season, I'm going to give him good, because I've been very impressed with what he's done. If he got, say, top 4, then I would have probably put him in great, if not world class. But I just feel like if he could have pushed that a bit more, I feel like could have done a bit better. Right, next up is Chris Wilder. Now, this man, I'm gonna put him straight up to world class, and I don't even need to say why. I've just been incredibly impressed by what he's done this season, starting off in his manager career so low in the English Football League, and ending up with a team that's got into 9th position in the Premier League. It's just very, very impressive from him. And I'm going to give him all the praise for it, because last season he was 2nd in the Championship. This season, to go 9th in the Premier League is incredibly impressive in everybody's eyes. And I think everybody that I know predicted Sheffield to go straight down back into the Championship, but he's defied all odds and gone straight up to the top half of the Premier League. I don't know anybody who would have predicted that to happen, which is very impressive. Right, next up is MIKEL Arteta, manager of Arsenal. Honestly, I think... Oh, I didn't mean to put him in poor. don't worry. I just feel like Arsenal have had some problems with managers this season. I think they changed managers 3 times. With such a strong side like Arsenal, I feel like they could have done much more this season to get higher up. And I know every one of you is thinking, but they won the Champions. Oh, they won the FA Cup. He should go strapped to world class. That's not everything. Like, yes, he won the FA Cup, but in the Premier League, to lead Arsenal to such a bad position regarding how good the side is, I feel like they should have got at least top 6. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in average just because he hasn't been given a lot this season, just like Frank Lampard, but he hasn't really pulled through as much as Frank Lampard. He has won the FA Cup, but I just feel like he deserves to be an average, and that's where I'm gonna put him. So next up is Jose Mourinho, manager of Tottenham. I think ever since Tottenham sacked Pochettino, I just feel like they haven't been doing as well in the Premier League. If they kept Pochettino, then I think they could have easily got top 4. There's not really much to say about this guy, but he's done pretty well, but also not too well, because obviously they got 6th position. That's not too bad, but because I know that Tottenham is such a strong side, I feel like they could have got better. So for that reason, I'm going to put Mourinho in average, because he's one of the greatest managers ever. With a manager with his experience, I feel like he could have done better, but he's done an average job, so he's going to stay in average. Right, so next is Roy Hodgson. Honestly, I haven't really monitored how Crystal Palace have been doing in the Premier League, so I can't really say much about him, because obviously I don't focus too much on Crystal Palace. With the position of 14th, I feel like obviously that's in the lower half. So what I've heard of him, I'm probably going to put him in poor. I just feel like they could have got better. Maybe went up a couple of places in the Premier League. But for now, I'm going to keep him in poor. Right, so next up is Sean Dyche. And I've actually been very impressed with what he's done this season, because a side like Burnley, they've got the likes of Nick Pope, who I really do like as a goalkeeper. I felt like he's been faced with a lot of challenges, and I really respect that he's come through like he has been doing this season. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in good, and I want to give him all the praise and credit that he deserves for that. Alright, so moving on to Eddie Howe. Obviously, he's been sacked as the Bournemouth manager. for Jason Tindall. So I just feel like he's done a decent job this season, but obviously Bournemouth have got relegated, and for that reason I'm going to put out of the club, just because he was literally put out of the club, and I just feel like with a side like Bournemouth he could have done a bit better. But yeah, I think that's a fair judgment. Right, next up is Daniel Farke. Obviously he's got relegated with Norwich, but I think we all saw that coming. Well, most of us saw that coming. Especially at the start of the season, he was quite impressive, especially with the likes of Pookie, Tim Cormax, Aarons, all really good players. He's probably got one of the weakest sides in the Premier League, and for that reason, I'm going to probably put him in poor or out of the club. I'm going to put him in poor, just because I have quite a lot of respect for him. I quite like him as a manager, but I think for getting relegated, I feel like that's brought him down a lot, and I would like to see him back in the Premier League one day, but for now, I feel like he could improve the squad, and let's see if he wins the championship. I'm not sure. Right, so next up is Graham Potter. I kind of like this manager, but honestly, I don't know too much about him. I've heard people say, like Ronan, that he's a really good manager, and what he's done with Brighton this season has been pretty good. Lots of people did predict Brighton to get relegated this season, but to get 15th is quite impressive with a side like Brighton. For that reason, I'm going to give him average, just because I haven't been too impressed. I haven't been too disappointed with him. He's a good manager, and I'll give him that. Right, so next up is Steve Bruce. I'm not too sure about what he's done with Newcastle. I know they've come 13th in the Premier League. With the players that he's got St. Maximin, he's got Almiron, he's got obviously Joelinton, the next flipping Ronaldinho. I'm just kidding. He's got a decent side, obviously not the best side in the Premier League. Probably not to quite an extent the best side of the Premier League. He looked quite promising at the start of the Premier League, but now obviously he's kind of lacked a bit. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in poor. But yeah, I just feel like Newcastle could have done even better in the Premier League to not get 13th. Right, so next up is Dean Smith, who's the manager of Aston Villa. Aston Villa did get 17th in the Premier League, so that's just bordering relegation. He's done quite well in the Premier League. I've been quite impressed with Aston Villa, but obviously to get so close to the relegation zone and to be in the relegation for quite some time, I feel like he could have done better. But obviously with a side like Aston Villa, he's been faced with a lot of challenges, and for that reason I'm going to put him in poor or average. I don't know too much about him, so I'm probably going to put him in poor, just because of the fact that he was so close to relegation, and I just thought he could have done better. Right, so next up is Manuel Pellegrini, who obviously got sacked out of the club in favour of David Moyes. Just for that reason, I'm going to put him in out of the club, because he got so close to the relegation zone. In fact, he got 16th. And with a side like West Ham, I feel like he could have done better. But I think that's a fair judgment to say that he's out of the club, because literally he is out of the club. And I just hope David Moyes can do better for them in the future. Right, so next up is Carlo Ancelotti, manager of Everton. I predicted Everton to do much better than they actually did in the Premier League. In fact, they got 12th. I predicted them to be within the top 10. In fact. So just for that reason, as a world-class manager, I'm probably going to put him at poor, just because I feel like with a side like Everton, with the likes of Richarlison, you got Digne, you got Keane, you got Calvert-Lewin, just all of the really good players, I feel like they could have done better in the Premier League this season. Right, so next up is Ralph Hasenhüttl. I'm not sure if I pronounced that wrong, so I'm really sorry for any Southampton fans who are completely triggered with that. Honestly, I don't know too much about this guy, that's why I had to look up how to say his name. So, I'm just going to go off of how well they did in the Premier League. They got 11th, obviously getting beaten by Leicester City 9-0 probably isn't the best thing to happen as a manager. So for that reason, I'm just going to put him at poor, just because it's just to get to such a position like 11th. I mean, it's quite impressive, but in fact, I'm going to put him in average. Yes, I'm going to put him in average, because I mean, to get 11th is quite impressive with a side like Southampton. Obviously, getting beaten 9-0 by Leicester City probably isn't very ideal in his eyes, but overall, pretty good season, and we'll go off of that. Okay, so Nigel Pearson, I'm just going to put out of the club because obviously he's literally out of the club. And obviously Watford haven't really had the best of seasons to quite an extent that they got relegated. I mean, it's quite sad to see Watford go, especially with the likes of Ismaili Sarr, Doucouré, Deulofeu, obviously Foster, but I'm pretty sure he's going to retire soon anyway. Really good players. It's quite sad to see them go. But I feel like the manager situation with Watford this season has been quite critical, and I feel like they need to do better with that. Nigel Pearson hasn't had the best of seasons, but obviously he's been sacked, so I'm going to put him out of the club. Right, that's the video for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. If you've enjoyed me hosting today's video, then please do leave a like down in the comments down below. I would really like your opinion in the comment section as well. That would be really appreciated from us to Premier League Programme. I hope you've enjoyed the video today, and subscribe if you want to, but only if you want to, mate. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.